It's time for February's beginner-friendly plan with me. Follow along for a windowed floral cover page and some cute Valentine-themed spreads, and lots more. Hello all you lovely people, welcome back. My name is Lynette, and on this channel we get creative together. In today's video I am working in an A5 dotted notebook from Notebook Therapy. As this is my beginner-friendly setup for this month, I am working in pens. I chose to work in pens this month because I wanted to use a material that most people would have. The coloured pens that I'm using mostly are Crayola Super Tips because they are fantastic pens and they're really inexpensive. Before we properly get stuck in, can you take a second to subscribe to the channel? When you subscribe to this channel, you are supporting this channel and it really helps me out. We're beginning with the windowed cover page. This whole setup relies on a few simple floral doodles and a pretty and elegant colour palette. So far I have sketched out a capital F in this bold serif font. I couldn't find my cutting mat, so I had to improvise and use this chunky piece of cardboard to put in between the two pages to protect the one underneath, as I'm very carefully going round the letter I've drawn out with a craft knife. So now we have the F shape cut out of our notebooks. I'm just going to go around and erase all the pencil lines and start working on some pretty florals to go underneath. For my first flower I have chosen to do some violets. One, because I love purple, and two, because violets are February's birth flower. So to create this simple violet, I am drawing 4 petals that are a little bit wonky. I always find drawing florals or painting florals very forgiving because they aren't supposed to be perfect, and if they're a little bit wonky then they actually look more realistic for it. So I'm doing the outline of the flower first and then loosely colouring it in, and then once I have done that I am going to go over with a slightly darker purple and just add a little bit of extra colour to the middle of the flower, as violets do tend to have a darker purple towards the centre of the flower. So that's pretty much the basics of the violet. You'll see in a little bit that I will be adding a little bit more detail to the flowers with some black fine liners. But for now, with some grey koi brush pens, I'm adding some foliage to the flowers. I'm using these beautiful greys because I think they just look so elegant with the purple. And I just keep checking by turning my page to check that the design fits nicely into that F. So for my next flower, I'm not quite sure what this flower is supposed to be, but it's just a simple 5-petaled flower that I've chosen to do in this really sweet pink that's got ever so slight purple undertones to it. And I'm making sure that the flowers aren't all the same size, and I've chosen to use this warm brown to do the foliage for those kind of almost look like cherry blossoms. And because it's Valentine's Day this month, we needed some hearts. And that is basically it for all the florals that I am going to do. I'm just going to repeat these patterns throughout the whole page now that I've made sure that the main design does actually fit nicely to that F frame. And here you can see me now adding some detail to those flowers with my fine liner. Now I'm not going to go over every single flower with the fine liner because I think then it ends up starting to look a little bit too busy. So because the violets are the main focus of this theme, I am going to just go over those with the fine liners and then maybe add a little bit of detail to some of the leaves. So with the simple handwritten font at the bottom, I've written the title, and now on the other side of the page I am going to use my grey brush pens once again and just do these really simple pretty leaf patterns all over the page, not adding too much colour because obviously we've got a lot of colour going on the other page. I was initially going to leave the cover page as is, but I don't like seeing blank pages in my notebook and I think it's a little bit of a waste of space, and I felt it just needed a little something. I'm only going to be using 2 shades of grey, this incredibly light grey and also a warm grey. And making sure that I leave lots of negative space between each leaf. page is almost covered in this pattern, I'm going to add some scraps of brown parcel paper, and then I'm going to add a mini calendar on top of that. I like adding a little bit of ripped paper to my spread sometimes. It makes it look a little bit more rustic, and I like the textures you get from ripped paper. If you're going to do this spread along with me, you do not have to use brown paper. You could use another colour that matches one of the colours of the flowers. I just think that the brown paper looks really lovely when you're using florals. And now, using some scraps of watercolour paper, I am adding a very simple calendar. Again, it doesn't have to be watercolour paper, it's just what I had laying around, and it's nice and thick, so when you tear the edges you get that lovely texture and it almost looks like handmade paper. So all that's left to do now is to stick that in. I'm using a Pritt stick that unfortunately has dried out a little bit, so I am definitely going to have to replace that. Oh, and I almost forgot. I also add a couple of little bits of washi tape. I chose something that was pink and spotty to match the pink flowers on the other page. So next up is my calendar page with a little Valentine's inspired quote. As you can probably see, I have drawn out my calendar grid first in pencil before going over in pen. Each square is 3 across and 4 down, and as I said, I'm working in an A5 notebook. I'm not bothering to use a ruler because they just get in the way and you can tend to sort of smudge the lines when using a ruler, so I'm just freehanding it. But if you're someone who likes incredibly straight lines, then go ahead and use that ruler. So the design I'm using for my calendar page is very much going to be keeping that theme going that we've done on the initial cover page. I've coloured in the top of the grid for the days of the week with that lovely warm grey, filling in the numbers for each day. I haven't gone for a big calendar, it's more of a month at a glance because I don't actually tend to use the big double spread calendars that I have done before. And I'm adding some violets again and pretty much doing the same kind of thing that we did on the cover page, but just a lot less. For the title of February, I have decided to do a faux calligraphy font. Once I've done that, I am just going to add a couple more very pale leaves just to fill in that blank space where I think it needs to go, and then highlight the title with that very pale grey. On the other page, I am adding these loose leaves again to the corners of the page, then some more brown ripped paper in which I'm going to add a quote to. So I haven't chosen a really cliche Valentine's quote. I am not someone who is massively into Valentine's Day, although I do celebrate it. So I have gone for a quote that says, "Let the beauty of what you love be what you do." And I'm using a Uni-ball Uni white gel pen to write this on top of the brown paper. And I'm keeping this really simple, just by adding a few little hearts to my quote, and then I'm going to stick it in. Because I added some washi tape to my cover page, I'm using that same spotty pink washi tape that I used before, and I'm adding some to the top and the bottom of the brown paper. So this pink washi tape was from a set of 6 that I found in Poundland last year. I'm not sure if they're doing them this year, as I haven't been in there for a while, but I chose to use this really cute doodly kind of heart one as well to go on top because it ties in with the hearts that I have done in the pattern on the other page. Now I'm adding some more flowers to the bottom of the calendar because I just think it needed it, but I'm also leaving some space for if I want to write some important dates. So next up, I'm doing a fun Valentine's Day inspired spread. Nothing too romantic and gushy, just a little list of all the things that I love. Trying to keep the theme running throughout the whole of my spreads, I am adding the title to some scrap pieces of brown paper, and I've sketched out in pencil some very simple doodles, which I will be colouring in using the same colours of the Crayola Super Tips that I've been using so far, as much as I can. I did end up having to use a couple of extra colours, and you'll soon see why. So my first doodle is a little bit of a cop-out. Obviously I wanted to add my family to what I love, but I have so many children. I have 6, so drawing each and every one of them would probably take up all of this page. So I just went for a simple heart with family written over the top. And then I think it needed a little bit extra, so I'm adding some white dots to imitate the washi tape at the top of the page. Next up is my 2 cats, Bob and Chicken. If you've been watching my videos for a little while now, you have probably seen Bob. He does like getting in front of the camera and he wants all the fusses when I'm trying to create. But he hasn't actually been on any of my videos recently because where I create is in the conservatory, and where it's winter it's a little bit cold, so he doesn't tend to hang out with me much at the moment. But I should imagine as the weather gets warmer, he'll be back demanding some more screen time. Chicken, however, is a little bit more shy and lives up to his name. My third doodle is of a cupcake because I just love pretty much any kind of cake. I've also added a bulb of garlic because I absolutely love garlic and add it to pretty much most of my meals. A teacup and teapot because I'm terrible with how much tea I drink. Daisies because they're one of my favourite flowers. I couldn't do a list of what I love without adding Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters. I have had an obsession with him since the Nirvana days. I have done a hand palette and a paintbrush to represent art. Chocolate because it's one of the best things ever invented. And then next up is mushrooms and also cheese. After doing this spread, I'm a little bit concerned that most of the things that I love are food. And then last but no means least, my pug named Elsa. She is my adorable little stink nugget with the intellect of a potato. But what she lacks in smarts, she makes up for with lots of entertainment and love. I did find this spread a little bit of a challenge when it came to colouring, having to stick to the same colour palette that I have been using throughout this setup. Over on the other page, I did a February bucket list. Unfortunately, I stupidly forgot to press the record button, so annoyingly I don't have any footage of me setting this up. For my bucket list, I put a romantic dinner for 2, date nights, making a Valentine's card, eating chocolate, cozy night in, a winter walk and making chocolate strawberries, and then finally a random act of kindness. And again I used the brown paper and the same washi tape that I've been using throughout. And then when I turn the page, you can see how far I got into creating these spreads before I realised I hadn't hit the record button, which is incredibly frustrating. So for my mood tracker, I came across this idea on Pinterest. So it's basically a little jar of hearts with 28 hearts that you're going to colour in for each day. And then I've also added a number of other hearts that I'm going to colour in grey, just so that the jar doesn't look so empty. On the other page, I am doing my habit trackers with the addition of another love-themed quote. So I'm doing 4 simple little calendar grids, and then I added this quote, "Do all things with love." For each of these little calendar grids that I would use to track each of the habits, I am just doing 1 square for each of the dates. And once I have filled all of those in, I'm going to rub out any pencil lines and then highlight the days of the week with a grey brush pen. And then with a slightly darker shade of grey, I'm adding a drop shadow to some of the text on the downward stroke of each letter. To finish this page off, it needs a title, so obviously habits, and then I'm going to be using the flower patterns that I've been using throughout, once again to the top and the bottom of the page. So are you guys looking forward to Valentine's Day this year? Have you got any nice plans, or is it something that you just don't do or you dread? Me personally, I'm not too fussed about Valentine's Day, and neither is my husband. We do kind of celebrate it. We do get each other, make each other a little card or something, but nothing too over the top. And I'd actually prefer something that he's made for me than something he's bought from the shop. And now we're on to our final spread, where we're doing our first weekly. So I'm drawing out a heart at the bottom of the centre of the page, and then I'm going to fill it in with our violet and pink floral designs that we've been doing throughout the whole of this setup. So once I've filled in the heart with all the florals and leaves, I'm going to erase the pencil line, and then now I'm adding with my fine liner these sort of lines offshooting from the heart to create like a dial weekly spread. I did end up actually making a mistake. I realised as soon as I'd drawn 7 lines that actually the first week of February is a 6-day week, but that's not a problem. I just got my Posca white paint pen and I very carefully went over that line several times and managed to end up hiding it. And then in the centre of the heart I add some more scrap pieces of brown paper with February written on it, and then some leaf designs to the corner of that page. And that's it. I was really pleased with how it all turned out. These little doodly flowers are really easy to make look pretty. They are really simple but effective. So let me know what you think in the comments section below. Your feedback is always really appreciated. What were your favourite spreads from the whole setup? Are there any spreads that you would like me to add to my monthly setups? And also I'd be really interested to know are there any beginners out there that are finding these spreads useful, and would you guys like me to continue doing these more beginner friendly spreads as well as the one that I do in my own personal journal? And while I'm on the subject of that, I will be having another Plan With Me video coming out at the end of the week, and it will be from my own personal bullet journal, and I am doing the theme of Corpse Bride. So if you're a huge Tim Burton fan like I am, then you will not want to miss it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then please don't forget to give it a like, and if you would like to support this channel and my art, then please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to keep you updated on future videos. Hopefully see you in the next video. Take care.